I prefer food from a local farm where I know that they fed it great food, they treated it well, and then it gets butchered in a, well, can you say humane way? Yeah, I think you can.
It's important to note that not all natural remedies are safe or effective.
So it was a cease and desist because on my website it said Dr. Annette Landman.
Some people say mixing herbs can be a dangerous game of roulette. The stake could be your life.
I was in bed, I would say 23 hours out of the day. I needed help going to the bathroom because I didn't have the energy and the balance to get there by myself.
Annette Landman, you have been in the natural healing space for how many years have you been?
Practicing at our clinic, my goodness clinic in Florenceville, since 2019. But it's been a journey before that.
What led you to where you are now, and sort of was it something you were interested in as a kid? Because for myself, my parents were, mom I guess has a lowercase ND as a naturopath, and dad was a nutritionist, so it was something that I kind of grew up with, and I hated at the time because I never realized, like, hey, I want candy, I want snacks, and we never had that in the house. And then as I grew up, I started to discover more and more the benefits of organic foods and natural products and natural healing. That was not something that really I learned through my parents. So what was your introduction into it?
Well, I can tell you what it was not. My father sold farm chemicals and animal nutrition, animal medicine. And so there was no awareness of what is holistic, what is non-chemical. Everything needed to be sprayed. I lived in an environment where it was farming county. So I had never heard of organic farmers back then. I don't think we had them growing up. I grew up in Holland. When I was 14, 15, I started to have migraines, and the only resolution was taking an ibuprofen, something like that, but it didn't really help much, and they kept on coming and they kept on coming, and a family doctor was like, here, you got some medication for migraines, and that stuff made me horrible sick. It was worse than the migraine, so I could really not function properly, and I thought, this is ridiculous. I'm young, what's going on? And then I met somebody that said, you should go see this gentleman who is a German doctor, and he does quantum biofeedback. And back then the machine was called a Mora machine. And so I go to this man, and he like takes my hand, and he has like a little probe thingy, and he goes like to the side of every nail, and I hear that machine like beeping and doing, and I'm kind of like, okay. And he's like, oh, I figured it out. And okay, what have you figured out? He's like, well, you are like overloaded with all kinds of toxins, so we really need to work on that. And I'm kind of like, how did I get these toxins? And so this man's like, well, it's most likely like lifestyle. And I'm thinking, I'm not a drinker.
You're a healthy person.
Right? I assumed, yeah. But still not thinking that like the whole living environment, back then they still sprayed chemicals with airplanes on farmers' fields. And so I started working with this man, and in every session he planted a seed and a seed and a seed. And when I, at a certain point after years of working with him, I said, so I'm going to move to Canada. And he was like, oh, that's fantastic. You will do a lot better. And I was like, why? He's like, well, here in Holland, all the electricity lines are going through the ground. We don't have lines on poles and through the air. He's like, so the ground is always really charged for you, and that is actually hindering you and giving you migraines as well. And I'm like, this man's full of it, right? So I get to Canada, and no migraines, no headaches. Things were better. So yeah, so it's been a long journey for me to learn, and for finding practitioners to plant seeds, jumping into educations, learning more. Yeah.
What are your certifications in your education?
Oh my gosh, like if you look at, so you have to display them in your office. In my office, it looks ridiculous. I don't know. Somebody counted them last week. I have 16. I think my biggest ones are, I have a PhD in natural medicine and a PhD in integrative medicine. I'm a naturopath, I'm an Ayurvedic practitioner, I'm a doctor in humanitarian services, and there's many more. But yeah, that's kind of, it's all holistic.
What has been the biggest thing that you see clients coming to you for? Is it just, hey, I don't know what's wrong with me, my doctor doesn't know what's wrong with me, and then they're just like, help, I heard that natural medicine is something.
So people never come to me at the beginning of a journey. They are fed up in the system that they have been in. And I only get the difficult cases at the moment, like the stuff that people have not figured out. People are desperate. They are supposed to see a specialist, but that's a year and a half away. They have a maybe cancer diagnosis, but to get to the is this cancer or not, this can be 4 months. And they are terrified. They want to take action. They want to be ahead of things. And so, yeah, you're supposed to have a niche. And I think when I started, for me, it was very much Lyme disease. Today, my chronic Lyme disease patient looks the same as somebody who has chronic COVID, long COVID. Some got that due to actually having a COVID flu-like reaction. Others got it after they got a vaccine. So yeah, I get a whole new group of people, and it's really, yeah, it's interesting.
Lyme disease seems to be one of those things that's getting more popular is one of those, is the improper terminology, but
Yes.
it's something that seems to be more readily diagnosed. And I've heard that it's very difficult to actually diagnose because the symptoms are just general like lethargy and it's hard to figure out. So is that something that you've been able to help and treat patients through?
I got really sick in 2015, and we didn't really know what was wrong with me. Like, no energy, everything was hurting. My brain was nowhere. I always found that I had a pretty interesting brain. Like, I opened chapters up there, and yeah, none of that was working. I struggled getting conversations together. The fatigue was just absolutely ridiculous. So I ended up in bed. I was self-employed. I ended up in bed. Employees were running my business. And my husband actually, his job became looking after me. I was in bed, I would say 23 hours out of the day. I needed help going to the bathroom because I didn't have the energy and the balance to get there by myself. I needed to have a babysitter if I had to take a shower, because some days I would just, fall over in the shower, needed help, and was losing weight very, very rapidly. Within months, I lost 60 pounds. And of course, you tap in with your family doctor, you tap in with specialists. At the end, I never got to see a specialist. There was just no answers. They were doing blood work, and they were like, well, we don't know why you are the way you are. But so I was in that bed for, I think, 8 months. And at a certain day, my husband was like, I was listening to your breathing overnight, and I thought, you're dying. He's like, you can't exist like this. And he's like, I am going to drop you off at the hospital, and I'm going to leave. They will have to deal with you. Because before, we would end up in the hospital, and they would send us home because they couldn't find anything. So
The revolving door.
yeah. And so he took me to a small local hospital, dropped me off, and so here I was, no brain. I needed to do the registration, struggled with that. Then I got to see the doctor, struggled to explain what I was going through, how my life had been for 8-9 months. This man looked in the system and he's like, you have been in Canada for 18 years and somehow we've never seen you in the system. And I see all these marks where you have gone through the emergency room and nothing has really come out of it. There was one that ordered a colonoscopy, and because I think he just wanted to be nice and do something for me. And yeah,
Do something and it'd be one of the most invasive procedures.
Right? Yes, yeah, something I wouldn't say.
Maybe she won't come back after this one.
Right? Yeah, let's do that for fun. Yeah. So it was just kind of bizarre, but he believed me. And he's like, have you traveled? And I was like, before I got really sick, I was in China, but I didn't feel great before that. So I've been in China for a bit. I've been Caribbean. I've been in Europe. And he's like, okay. So he kept me there for a while, and they kept on coming back. More blood, more urine, more this, more that. And he just submitted test after test after test. So when he was finally ready to let me go, he sat down and he said, you know what, I do honestly believe that you are not doing well. He's like, I also noticed that there's a note in there that you should go to palliative care. And because there's nothing we can do for you, we don't know what's wrong with you, but that's kind of where you belong right now.
Wow.
Yeah, and he said, based on all the things I have tried, there's only one thing that I believe it can be, and I'm not allowed to tell you what that is. And so, which was really bizarre. And I don't even know if my husband was called in the room at that point or not. I don't remember that part. But he said, I believe that you have Lyme disease, but you have to go to the United States to get a diagnosis, because we don't diagnose, recognize it. Our what's called a Western blot test here in Canada is really old. It's from the early 70s. And basically 70% of the people do not get diagnosed, although they do have a positive although they do have Lyme, they don't have a positive Western blot test, because at that point you have chronic Lyme. So he sent me home, and
what is Lyme disease? Sorry.
Lyme disease is a bacteria that's in your body, and it can be extremely disruptive. When stress gets high, immune system goes down, Lyme disease can set up shop in almost any organ. It even has the capability to drill itself into tissues, bones. It can go, and if you have a leaky gut, it actually opens up the blood-brain barrier, and Lyme disease can actually go to your brain, and that's actually what happened to me. And I also ended up with what's called Lyme carditis. So the bacteria had also set up shop in my heart. And we ended up with a perfect storm situation at a certain point that my heart stopped. And that I needed to be rushed to a hospital, CPR, and all the beautiful things. And it's the most horrible, painful, miserable thing that I've ever experienced in my life. And it's really hard mentally as well. You're in pain 24/7, and a very high pain level, and there's just no way out. There's no relief.
Well, when you break your leg, you're like, okay, this is going to hurt for a while. Or you have cancer, and you're like, I understand, okay, I've got this growth growing somewhere. But when you have something that's all throughout your body systemically, you don't know what's wrong with you, and you can't treat it. So that must be hard on the head.
It was, and it was really interesting to realize it was almost like my brain was kind of shutting down. And the highlight in my day was when the school bus would come home and the kids would come in. They would kind of snuggle on the bed and have their story. And that was kind of the highlight of my day. Oh, the kids are home. That's exciting. And other than that, I just couldn't tolerate noises, sound. I needed to be in a dark room because I had this 8-month blasting migraine. And all my, every tissue in my body would hurt, rolling over in a bed. Yeah, I needed a Porsche. It was just miserable. It was awful. And so palliative care was suggested, and my husband he was like, no.
You're sick, but not that sick.
He's like, no way that I'm just going to take that, because there's no official diagnosis of anything. Yeah. So he had to drive to Toronto for work, and he downloaded an audiobook. So he left early in the morning, and it was all a little stressful because he had to organize babysitters for me, because he was going to be away for a few days, and I could just not be alone. I could not be near a stove because I would not remember if it's on or off or how it works sometimes. I could stand at something that's something you use every day, like let's say a coffee maker, and I could be looking at it and my brain could not come up with how does this work. And so I had babysitters and he left, and after an hour and a half he called me. He had downloaded an audiobook about Lyme disease, and he calls and he's like, I know what's wrong with you. I was like, what? Yeah. And he's like, you have Lyme disease. He's like, I have this book and it's written by a doctor and his wife has Lyme disease and it's about his wife. And he's like, and it's exactly the same journey. And the doctor was a chiropractor. And so he's like, I'm going to listen a little bit further. Calls me again after like 4 hours. And he's like, so I spoke with this doctor's wife. And I'm like, what? Yeah, he just went on Google and he figured it out, and he called, and the wife was now actually the assistant to the doctor, and he said, we need to somehow come and see you. And she's like, okay, tell me what you need. And we ended up going to California, booking a flight, which was extremely challenging because I was extremely sensitive to radiation and mold at that point. And mold would give me anaphylaxis, it would give me blasting migraines. I was exhausted, I didn't have any strength in my muscles. It was like the most interesting journey we've taken, I think. And we ended up in California, and in one morning they diagnosed me with 5 things that I didn't know I had, and if I would have known it, I could have basically started mediating this at home. Yeah.
Do you manage it now still, or is it something that you've gotten past?
My whole life has changed. How I live, how much stress I allow, the kinds of foods I eat, my whole lifestyle, EMF, exposure, everything has changed. We've adopted a whole new lifestyle. So every day I live with the awareness that I need to keep my body as healthy as I can. So yes, do I have symptoms? No, I don't have any symptoms. I'm actually doing great. My brain, it took a few years for my brain to really be back to what it was, but my brain is great. It's amazing. I have the energy. My body is great, but it did do damage. It damaged my thyroid. It damaged my liver. Liver's much better now, but thyroid, yeah, like you have to see it like there's scar tissue on it basically. And yeah, I live with an awareness of what I will absolutely not allow for my body.
All because of the late diagnosis of something that is treatable, obviously,
Yeah.
and can be taken care of.
Yeah, and the horrible thing is, if you go to the hospital and you get diagnosed with this, the horrible thing is the type of treatment they do now. They do like years-long rounds of antibiotics, like the titrating it, and it ruins your gut. So maybe your bacteria is dead, but then your gut is ruined. Well, health starts in your gut, man. So the people that go through it, and if they, like I healed with only only the holistic side, and also the mental emotional side needed to be addressed as well. But if you just go to the hospital and you go for years and years and years on rounds of antibiotics, yeah, I don't see any positive resolution in that.
That's frustrating because I've heard so many different stories with regards to our healthcare system in Canada, which is awesome. We have socialized medicine. It's amazing. We don't have to pay for it. We pay through our taxes. But to hear that and then have systems like MAID in place, that is arguably, I would presume, that would have been what your offer would have been.
Oh my gosh, yes. Today, if this would happen to me today, yes. And you know what? I knew I had kids. And, you know, and I needed to push through for my kids because they could not be without me. Like, I knew that, and it didn't matter how miserable the day was. I wanted to show up for them, and I needed to get out of this to see their life evolve. And, but I know many people at a certain point, I understand when you're like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. Yeah, totally understand it. No judgment.
there's a number of people that I've heard from recently that the allopathic medicine system just doesn't work for them. Somebody recently that, actually I was talking to her boyfriend last night, she has cancer, and their treatment wasn't the typical treatment that they normally like would go for. You hear that most people would either be radiation, would be chemotherapy,
Yeah.
and she didn't want to go that route and ended up searching far and wide to be able to find a doctor that would treat her
Good.
properly, and they've been only treating with ivermectin and fenbendazole, so with antiparasitics, which is something we don't talk about. That's something that even throughout COVID, that like ivermectin was faux pas. You don't talk about ivermectin, it's horse paste. And that to me is just wild that our medical system can flip-flop like that.
Yeah. I used ivermectin in 2017 to overcome what I was dealing with. And I knew at that point that it had won a, what do you call it?
A Nobel Prize. hasn't it?
Nobel Prize for medicine. And not just for parasitic therapies, but also for many other things as a cancer fighter. So I was already told that in 2017, and it was part of my journey for a very short period of time. It was still a pharmaceutical, and so I used it for a very short period of time, and then I went into, I found a new company that took a scientist, so the guy who runs the lab, from a pharmaceutical company, and said, hey, these pharmaceuticals, they are based on natural things that they find in nature. They're based on plants, many of them are. And the guy was, yes, that's right. And so they were like, so then you get this plant and you have to create a chemical component that matches all that. And because it's then a chemical, they are allowed to slap a label on it and register it and patent it. And he's like, yes, that's right. So they were like, if we hire you, can you help us with the natural products so we can put out a supplement line based on natural products that really work? And the guy said yes. And I met this man a few times, and very interesting guy. So he said, there's a product, it's called, there's a plant, it's called mimosa, the Mimosa pudica. And he's like, you need the seed from that. And the Mimosa pudica seed will help you to expel biofilm and parasites. He's like, make sure you get the seed. And so we're like, okay. So we managed to get access to that, and I started taking it, and it was unbelievable what my body started expelling. And then it was also unbelievable how my energy came back. I had been drinking lots of like smoothies. My husband was making smoothies every day for me for nutrition. I couldn't really handle meals, and my body could actually take the nutrition out of that, and my energy levels were building up, and yeah, life was becoming a lot better. And I think I took that Mimosa pudica for 6 months, and it's unbelievable what my body decided to let go of. And so I was kind of hooked on this man and his science, and this company, I think now they have 14 or 16 products out there. So they went back to nature, retrieved what the pharmaceutical was based on, and are releasing all these products.
Why do you feel that so many people are opposed to those natural methods of healing? Like, it's very true that a lot of those things, like I think of even like salicylic acid from willow bark, and different, like so much medicine is derived from natural things.
Yeah.
Why have we gone so far away from that? Even so much to say like, oh, that's voodoo, that's crazy, those aren't actual medicines, you need pharmaceuticals.
Well, we have been brainwashed like that. That's the simple version. Like my mom, what the doctor would say was gospel. Like if the doctor didn't suggest you take this or that, then you don't do it. My mom ended up with colon cancer. I think it was 2019. At the end, she passed in 2013, and many discussions with her, like, Mom, you're taking this chemo, you've had the surgery, you're taking the chemo, you're not feeling great, you don't have quality of life like this. Let's explore some other avenues. Mom, maybe we should adapt your diet a little bit right now since you're going through this. And she was like, oh, I don't know, I would have to ask my oncologist. And then she would call me back and she'd be like, no, I saw the oncologist and I asked him and he laughed in my face because nutrition has nothing to do with healing or chemo. And then I was done. That's as much as she would let me in with my ideas. And it's all brainwashing. At the end, a week before my mom passed, she said, hey, do you think we could like call somebody that you had kind of on your list? And I didn't have the heart to say, Mom, like, look at you.
It's too late.
It's too late. I didn't have the heart to say it. And I said, you know what, Mom, let me get right on to that. And actually the same day she ended up in a coma, and she was in a coma for 6 days, and that's when she passed. And I cannot say that I could have saved my mom's life from cancer. I don't make statements like that. Could I have made my mom's quality of life better? I absolutely believe that.
Where did that failing start? Because if the doctor isn't willing to provide those types of options even,
right,
and if we see the doctor as sort of this holy grail of, okay, that is the only, what they say is Bible, and that is how we're going to proceed, that seems to be a failing of the education system then, of what they were taught, whether they're not taught enough nutrition, which we know that doctors aren't taught nutrition like at all, but also with regards to just the holistic look at medicine.
Yeah, well, look at our food supply. Look how horrible our food supply is. Look what they add. Look what they lie about. In the United States, you can put horrible stuff in food, but if it's less than 6% of the product, you don't have to mention it on the label. So what we add to our foods is absolutely horrible. Anybody who gets any autoimmune disorder, please go to a whole food diet. So maximum 5 things on your label. And they need to be good things.
It's just crazy to me how we've sort of transitioned away from natural medicines. And now we're seeing more and more people go back to it.
Yeah.
And I think it's important. Would you say that it's important for people to not only focus on what goes into their body, but what goes onto their body?
Absolutely. Yes. So many of the people that I get in. So this is my biggest thing, I think, that I try to tell everybody. The most horrible offender in our environment is our laundry detergents. Your laundry detergent, it's all chemical stuff. It has all this chemical scented stuff. It's awful. But your skin is your largest organ, and your skin absorbs. It pushes out and it absorbs. So if you put this very offensive product on your skin, your body absorbs all the toxins. And then you're wondering why you have all these hot flashes, why perimenopause is such a hellish road for you. You're just wondering, why am I so tired? Why can't I sleep? Because all this stuff, they're endocrine disruptors, and this is what you are doing to your body. And nobody tells you any different. Yeah, like go to the holistic aisle in your superstore, in your Sobeys. Shop there mostly. Do your health a favor. Shop mostly at your farmer's market, at your holistic aisle, at the superstore, at the Sobeys. That is where your health is. The outside row in your supermarket, never the inside rows, is kind of a good guideline to go by.
Now, you mentioned before we started that I shouldn't call you Dr. Annette. Despite you listed off the number of PhDs that you have, which in my books would make you a doctor, right? You're well educated. Why can't I call you Dr. Annette? Given you have the education, very clearly, I had doctors in university who were doctors of biology or doctors of chemistry. Why are you not the same?
In New Brunswick, there is a board of surgeons and physicians who doesn't allow for any holistic doctors, although that's on my diplomas, to be called doctor. Somehow I have 2 PhDs, so I could be called doctor. But you know what? There's not much weight to that for me. Like, I'm here for the people that want help. And I don't want to be far removed and labels and things like that. I'm your ally. I'm here to help you. So it's absolutely fine, whatever you call me. Like, we can live with that. It's good. Is it a bit of a slap in the face because I've studied more than most of the doctors that I know? Yeah, you know, in the beginning it was a little bit, wow, that's crazy. Like, I pour all these years and years and years and years of education in. And but that's okay, because that would be ego. That would be speaking out of ego. And all of this work is not about me. It's not about my ego. It's about the people that come in, where they're at, the help they need. So, yeah, it's all good. I don't care. Did I get a cease and desist letter because of it? Yes, I did. So
what became of that?
Nothing. Well, so I got this letter. We were on our way out. It was Friday afternoon. We were on our way out to fly to Toronto because we did weekend classes in Toronto. So it's Friday afternoon. You have to get your butt in the car. You have to drive to the airport in Fredericton. You have to fly to Toronto. And the next morning at 9 a.m. you need to be in your little seat because 2 days of education. And so my husband Eljo came into the clinic and he was like, hey, there's a funky letter for you. And so it's kind of on the way out, opening the letter, reading it, and it starts with cease and desist. And you're like, what? And so still like,
this is a big deal.
Yeah, kind of like, but also like, oh my God, I should not get worked up about this right now. No idea what it's about. So then in the plane kind of, hey, let's read this letter. So it was a cease and desist because on my website it said Dr. Annette Landman, and that was offensive to the people who were medical doctors. And so cease and desist, like close your shop, be done. When we were in Toronto, we were meeting up with a few people from my licensing board and also the president of my licensing board. So I handed over the letter and the president was like, oh, one of those. And I was like, what? And she's like, I'll send you something on Monday and you work around that a little bit and you send it in. So she sends me something on Monday and it really explains what my credentials are, what all my education levels are, and that I actually, due to having 2 PhDs, I'm allowed to be called doctor. And so, kumbaya. I send it in, silence for 3 months, silence. And so I was like, I have no idea if they got it. I really don't know. And then I got a letter from their lawyer and it said, oh, thank you for complying. All is well. Goodbye. That was it. Yeah. So the president of my licensing board said that many are so intimidated by letters like that that they immediately shut down their business. Yeah.
What's wrong with our medical system where the ego, and that to me sounds like an ego thing,
right,
coming out with regards to a title. Like if you're helping people, that should be, you should have credentials of how many patients that you've helped and seen, rather than being concerned about a label, 2 letters in front of your name.
Yeah. It's no big deal to me today. Not at all. No. Doesn't matter. Like, yeah. It's but it's interesting because there was also a local nurse practitioner that tried to report me and start something only because I had helped one of her patients that she had not been able to really understand what was happening. And when I got that person in, I use a quantum biofeedback system. So it kind of hook you up, it straps around your ankles, your wrists, and your head. And the system has frequencies in it. And it sends these frequencies to your body, and your body is just going to say, oh, I recognize this, I don't recognize that. So let's say I send the frequency of a Lyme bacteria in. Your body says, oh, I've seen that, or I've never seen that. Or it tells me, oh yeah, my liver looks just like that, which is great, that's a healthy liver. Or it says, oh, my liver looks nothing like that. Is it a diagnosis? No, but it's a great guideline for me to see what is somewhat out of balance, so what could we be dealing with. So for that person I kind of found the imbalance and the root cause, and we started working on that, and she could come off all pharmaceuticals after a couple of months because she was well. And the nurse practitioner was upset about it and reported me, but nothing came from that. But it's an interesting mindset to me. Like, should you not be in this, let's call it business, because it is business, to help people? Should your concern not be the outcome for that person instead of who done it. Yeah.
And it feels like for much of our medical system, and I don't know if it's overworked or underpaid or what's wrong with the allopathic system, but a lot of it appears to be treating symptoms more than actually treating patients. And I find it difficult when, I mean, as somebody who likes to find the root cause of things, I like to see why something is broken rather than throw it out, because we live in such a disposable society that we throw out just about everything. If it breaks, you just buy a new one, order a new one. Whereas with your body, you've only got one.
Right.
So it's better to get to the root cause rather than slap Band-Aids on it. And that's what a lot of pharmaceuticals end up being, whether it's SSRIs or other medications, that it's just, okay, we're going to slap a Band-Aid on it and you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Whereas now we know with regards to broad-spectrum antibiotics, and using them too much can be really bad for your microbiome, or even SSRIs, especially using them for too long, can be really dangerous for your overall mental health.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with all of what you're stating. There seems to be a bit of a guidebook handy in the allopathic system that if these things are out of balance, this is the label, we stick to it. The amount of women I have seen going into the emergency room on, let's say, a Tuesday night, and they believe that they have a heart attack and they get labeled with anxiety, instead of doing a proper blood panel and then realizing that it's actually thyroid that they're struggling with. It's just, there's also no proper time to sit down, listen to the story, add all the little things up. They deal in the now. You come in now, this is what's happening now, and well, it's not your heart, so it's anxiety. And then they send them home, and then they're surprised that in 2 weeks they're back there with exactly the same journey, and the Ativan didn't kick it. It's just, it frustrates me that there's no proper care for a person. Like, these are not numbers, these are people. And you have a health crisis, otherwise you don't go into the emergency room, and you're just a number. Yeah, it breaks my heart for some people. Yeah.
Why has the medical system become that? Because we went from years ago, I think of my grandparents or great-grandparents' time, where you'd be able to get house calls from a doctor.
Yes.
And they could come and spend time with you and learn about your malady, whereas now you're lucky to spend 15 minutes with your primary care physician.
For one condition. Yeah. So
where did that disconnect happen? Like, what is wrong? Again, I asked what's wrong with the medical system today that we don't do that. We don't spend time with people.
It's understaffed. Like, it's the amount of nurses that I know that have or retired or left the profession to do something else. I know a few young nurses that went to nursing school. When they end up doing their internship, within 3 months they quit and they said, I'm not going to do this. I had a nurse in yesterday that was telling me that she has 38 patients on her 12-hour shift. 12 hours running after 38 people, and she's also the person that hands out all the medication. And she needs to make sure to stay on track with that, because they need to have their early medication, of their morning medication early, because the noon medication is right behind it. And she was absolutely burned out, doesn't know how to find a way out of it because they're so understaffed. If she quits, then what? People also feel the responsibility for where they work, right? People have a heart. And it's heartbreaking to see that. So the good nurses are there and they're working them to death into, well, a burnout. And the people who step into that, they're like, can you imagine coming right out of nursing school, getting on the floor, and it's like, here's your 38 patients, right? The system is broken. They always said when the baby boomers come to a certain age and they have certain needs that we would see a problem. Well, I don't think it was supposed to be the way it is today. If I go back to where the COVID vaccines were handed out and where people in healthcare were also forced to get this vaccine, and the amount of professionals that said, no, I'm waiting a minute, or I just don't want it, and they were then fired. we lost a lot of great care personnel there. And I think we're feeling that as well.
It surprises me that given how much we are taxed, especially in New Brunswick, that we don't have a better medical system. I mean, we hear news stories all the time, it feels like all the time, of people who are sitting in the hospital for 12, 24 hours, or people who die sitting in the emergency room.
Yeah.
So, what is wrong? I feel like I keep going back to what is wrong with the system. Like, how are we paying so much into a system that's just not working?
Yeah. Well, we have a government, and we just got a new government in New Brunswick, and I don't think healthcare or education is high on the list of a place that you should put funds into. They're still arguing with nurses about what their pay should be. I don't even know how long this argument has been going on. And let's pay these people what they deserve. They show up. I don't want to do a 12-hour shift in a hospital. It's exhausting. We're losing doctors left, right, and center. There's no reason to be retained in New Brunswick. If you are, let's say, a nurse or a doctor, you can make more money somewhere else. I know a group of nurses who left our local hospitals, and they are now working back into Maine because they can just earn more money, or they became travel nurses because they make a lot more money. It's financially tough in New Brunswick to earn it. Like, I don't know what household can live off of one income right now. So you need to kind of have two incomes to do a little bit extra in life. And we are taxed through the roof. It's ridiculous. And a carbon tax and a dit tax and a that tax, it's ridiculous. So we're broke. And they tax us more. And so I don't know what our government is thinking. They don't have our first needs should be proper nutrition, good health care, and education. Those first three basic needs are not being taken care of by our provincial government.
More and more people are looking towards, even ourselves are looking towards homeschooling our kids for that very reason, that we feel we can probably do a better job given our background of education than what current teachers are today, which I think unfortunately many get labeled as glorified babysitters because they're not given the tools or access to the ability to do what they should be doing, especially if they have a heart for kids. And similar to nurses, like if you're able to take care of your patients, or able to take care of the kids, but if you've got 30 plus that you're trying to take care of or trying to educate, somebody's going to fall through the cracks. And I think more often than not, it ends up being a watered down education or watered down medical system, as we're seeing with nurses that aren't able to take care of their patients.
Yeah, well, look at our boys. Look at the boys, elementary, middle school age. Our boys are struggling. Many get diagnosed with ADD, ADHD. Our school system is not geared towards that. If you look in England, they have boys' schools, girls' schools. Boys' schools educate in a different way. For the first, I think, 3 or 4 years, it's more play education, and then it's more to sit down and learn. The girls are okay with sit down and learn from day one. Boys need to be educated in a different way, and boys have just totally different needs. With what they all add to our foods, I think it spikes ADD and ADHD massively into our children, and boys are more sensitive. I'm not saying it's not happening to girls, but we need to address that. Like, I know RFK is cleaning up the food supply, and people don't understand what he's doing, and that breaks my heart a little bit because there's a lot of pushback there. But RFK is actually making big changes in the United States to make our children healthier and make North America healthier to live in for our children. And a lot of people don't seem to understand or see that. But if he can do what he set out to do, it's going to be amazing for our kids.
I think if more people were better educated on their own bodies, of understanding the way things work, or understanding just basic physiology, I think we'd be better off in the long run, because I think so many people, even I worked a time as a nutrition counselor, and so many people don't know about their macros or their micronutrients or what they should be getting on a regular basis with regards to protein and carbohydrates. And so is that something that you see on the regular, where people will come to you and they're just largely malnourished?
All the time. Yeah, all the time. However, I have simplified it too, because if I send people home with too much homework, too many changes, it's not happening. I send people home with eat real food. If you look at the label and it has ingredients that you cannot pronounce, you don't want it. If it has seed oils, if it has numbers, if it has funky sugars, you don't want it. So go to your farm market, cook at home. It is so interesting to me, the amount of women that say, I don't cook. Well, what do you do then? Like, that's so foreign to me. What do you mean you don't cook? Yeah, find the joy in cooking. Find the joy in nurturing your family. Stop purchasing cereals, fortified products. Stop buying that, because that's all, like, your fortified products, like your Pop-Tarts is something really horrible. The cereals you buy, that stuff, it has added chemical vitamins in it, and most of them are based on a folic acid chain, and if your child is somewhat ADD, ADHD, that will spike them through the roof. Stop doing that. Like, watch what you feed them. And maybe we need to go to a level where we sit down with our kids and we let them eat the worst garbage food on the planet. You want your roll-ups or whatever it's all called, your red dye, your blue dye. You want that? Knock yourself out. Let's say the morning after Halloween, this is what we're doing. And then you ask your kid, how do you feel? Well, one will most likely be spinning up and down the stairs, and one will have a headache, and one will have a tummy ache, and the other one will be exhausted. Ask them how they feel. Help them assess that. And then the next day, you're going to cook a wholesome meal at home, and you're going to ask your kids after that, how do you feel after eating that? Make them connect with their body, because I think that's what I see mostly, that people have no connection to their body. I can ask really simple questions. How does that make you feel? Does it upset your stomach? What are the foods that you don't tolerate? People are like, I don't know. I've never thought about it. So yeah, maybe we need to start even in kindergarten earlier, talking to our kids. How does this make you feel? And then you already eliminate the stuff that they should not be eating.
There's such a disconnect between people and their food. There's something like 1 in 4 families grew up on or near a farm. What was it, 100 years ago, and now it's less than 1 in 100 grow up on a farm, and so you have no idea where your food comes from. And that's something that I keep running into more and more. Not only are people not familiar where their food comes from, but like you mentioned, cooking and knowing how to cook. I had the executive director of the local food bank in last week, and she said that there was a young gentleman who came in and was excited that he learned how to make toast for the first time.
Oh.
He watched a YouTube video. He was 18 years old, watched a YouTube video on how to make toast.
Yeah.
Like, awesome. Hell yeah, good for him. But at the same time, how do you get to 18 years old without anybody teaching you?
That's
Either
terrifying.
Your parents, whatever. And that's so sad.
Yeah.
That so many, I think, of the newest generation, I think it would be Gen Z or Gen Alpha, have no idea how to cook because it's just not been a priority. There's always been food around. You can go to McDonald's, you can go to Dairy Queen, you can go to Subway if you want something better, supposedly. But so many people have no idea how to cook anything. And so I think we're seeing that in our healthcare system, is that people are getting sicker and sicker because of that.
Yeah, and it's interesting, when I came here in 2000, when I immigrated from the Netherlands, Woodstock was kind of the first place I got introduced to, and I was like, oh, drive-through, fast food. And so I asked my real estate agent the question, like, how do all these places like exist? How can they be financially viable on, I don't even know how many people lived in Woodstock at that point, but like, how can they all make a living? And he's like, what do you mean? It's like, well, how often do people do this? And he was like, Oh, daily. Like, or you, at least daily you get a coffee or you get a hamburger or you do this or you do that. And I was like, daily? And he was just like, yeah. And it was such a foreign concept to me. We did not even have a McDonald's close to where I lived in Holland. Like, you had to go to the city to find McDonald's, and then we would all be like, that's gross. Like, so, yeah. It's mind blowing how that has become our kids' normal. I think our kids were somewhat lucky that I got sick because they really had to help. And our daughter was already really good at making her own smoothies and helping in the kitchen. And our boys didn't always like it, right? But at a certain point you have to. You all have to pitch in, and they did. And they can all cook. And yeah, don't have to worry about them. But it's wild the amount of people that have no sweet clue how to boil a potato. Yeah.
How to cook anything.
Can you imagine being the food banks, sending somebody home with this bag of groceries, knowing that a week from now, maybe all the fresh vegetables will end up in the garbage because they have no idea what to do with it? That's heartbreaking.
That was something in another interview we talked about, how people would be given a turkey for Thanksgiving or for Christmas, and they cook it and they eat it, and then they throw it out because they don't know how to use it or preserve it.
Yeah.
They don't know how to use it for sandwiches or to use it in a soup or whatever.
Right.
And so just not having that education. And I don't necessarily fault anybody for not knowing that, because somebody should have taught you along the way.
Yesterday I had a lady in, and she was in her 40s, and we have whole chickens in our freezer. And so I said, no, I cooked my chicken on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday I made bone broth, and I canned it. And so I'm just talking, and she's like, hold on, what? What's bone broth? Okay, I'll explain to you what bone broth is. So it's like, it's great in collagen. It's great for your gut. It's great when you have like, when you know your stomach is somewhat out of balance, amino acids. Yeah, it's great for you, bone broth. And she's like, oh, and what did you do? And I was like, well, I used my chicken bones and I boiled it for 24 hours. I added some herbs, spices, some veggies, and so she's like, so where did you go to get the bones? I was like, well, I cooked my chicken. I peeled all the meat off of it and I put all that in the fridge. And then I had my chicken bones and I put that back in the pot, added water, added a lot of spices and things. And that's where my bones came from. And she's like, that's just wild. Who does that? And I was like, but I think we've always done that. Generations before us had bone broth because you use every piece of the animal because it's an animal and you killed it. And now you need to honor the animal by using every single piece of it. You don't be wasteful. Yeah.
That's such a foreign concept to so many people now. It's just
is.
having not only that respect, but that even necessity of knowing, okay, and this is the only food I have. I need to extract as much nutrients as I have to be able to utilize that because we have food abundance. Mm-hmm. But somehow, latest statistic I saw said 58% of food grown in Canada gets gone to waste. Which that means the majority of food that farmers are growing in their fields just go to waste. Just gets thrown away.
That knowledge hurts. Yeah, no. In Holland, I think because the Second World War was still so fresh in the memories of my grandparents and my parents, the Germans starved the people in Holland. And if you had a farm, you were lucky because you had some food. However, people would show up at your house with grandma's jewelry and say, if you give me a bag of potatoes, here's grandma's jewelry for you. And my grandfather was a man that would say, no, I don't want your jewelry. Here's your bag of potatoes. We have plenty because we're farmers. But that was so ingrained in us that you are never wasteful with food and you are always appreciating the food that ends up on your plate. I'm sure it's different for our kids, right? Because like the next generation, the emotions water down a bit. But I hope we taught them to really appreciate the food that's on your plate.
Now you mentioned something that I think is important, and it's been quite an uproar lately. You talked about seed oils briefly. Let's take a quick break, and then we can come back and we can talk about seed oils and some of the bad things that we have in our regular diet. If you like these episodes and you are certainly not getting them anywhere else, please consider subscribing to our Patreon. Go to patreon.com/Homegrown Show, where you can subscribe and help support what we do so that we can put out more episodes and talk to more people, where you can have your say about who comes on the show and some questions that we'd be able to ask. So before the break, we talked a bit, or you had mentioned, I guess, the red dyes and seed oils, and they've become quite popular of late, especially like people using tallow for things, whether it's skincare or like cooking food in tallow. So the seed oil industry, especially in Canada, is a massive industry, massive exports. So if we're talking about this, a lot of people get mad at you and have gotten mad at me for speaking about it, and people try to justify the use of seed oils. Why are seed oils bad for you?
Just because how they are pressed. There are, there are basically no great seed oils. I can't say, oh, there are a few that are better. No. They're often not cold pressed, they're often hot pressed, which makes them, what's the word I'm looking for? Rancid. They are thrown into foods at a shocking amount as a bit of a filler, and it's not helping your body. It's not doing good stuff inside your body. So yeah, I would love for people to use like an olive oil, avocado oil, products like that, cold pressed, not mass produced preferably, because that's also a bit of an issue. But yeah, your seed oils, it's just not good for your health. It's not good for your heart health. Your cholesterol issue might actually feed a little bit into that instead of what they make you believe. So yeah.
And it's like those things, I find they're heavily concentrated. So if it's a corn oil, then having corn is fine, and there may be good and bad things in corn or anything that you eat. But when you concentrate that, you just need to be mindful of, okay, all of those good things that were in it, and then all of the bad things are also an issue.
One of the things that I check when somebody comes in, it's kind of about 5 things that I really want to know. One of the things that I want to know if you have like an overload of mycotoxins in your body, so mold mycotoxins, and if you eat things like corn very often, and it can be your popcorn, your chips, it can be your corn oil in products that you don't even know you're consuming them, that really ups the mycotoxins in your body. Mycotoxins are often things that your body can't really in a natural way synthesize out, and it becomes a problem in your body, and you get like headaches, you get brain fog, and you get all kinds of health issues, and you don't know why. But then when we go back to a whole food diet and you don't consume things like that, you start to feel a lot better over time. It's not overnight, it's over time.
That was one of the things that I tried to stress most for clients when I was in the nutrition industry, was to be able to go to fruits and vegetables first. Yeah. Go to whole foods. And then we can focus on, because everybody gets so wrapped up in the, oh, what's the difference between organically grown or no spray or this or that? It's like, okay, you're not eating vegetables, period. Let's start by eating vegetables, and then we can move into organic, grass-fed, naturally grown, whatever. But so many people, I think, get scared by all of those labels, and then you're just trying to jump in and you're trying to justify the expensive meat or the expensive eggs, whereas you should really just be focusing on eating things closer to home.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people are exhausted. They come home and it needs to be convenience. I think modern health issues, modern diseases are the diseases of convenience. I think that's really where we have landed now. If I ask you about your body, I analyze your body, and then I start asking questions about your lifestyle, your foods, your rest, your sleep, all those things. I always end up with the things that are convenient but not so much good for your body. And then we carefully have to wean you off of certain things that have been your normal and you like it because it suits your stagnant lifestyle, basically. And you still feel like let's say scrolling on your phone all evening long. You like it because you feel like you connected to the outside world, but you haven't moved any, and it's bad for your brain because you get overexposure, all these impulses, it spikes certain hormones, blue light in your face all evening, and then you're like, I don't know, I just don't sleep. Yeah, let's make some changes, which is hard. The convenient changes are the hardest.
Lifestyle changes are incredibly difficult to be able to change because so
Yeah.
many people are set in their ways for, well, especially if you've been doing something, whether it's 10, 20 years for the same thing over and over, going to the same job, sitting in the same spot. You just ruin your neck. You can ruin your
Oh my
back.
gosh, it's a medical thing now. The text neck, and I see them, and the text fingers. It's a medical condition now. How wild. Yeah, it's... There are some modern technologies that I use on the daily that have really helped me. I also find on the regular that I need to take a break from that, I need to step away. I run my whole business on my phone. Like, everything can be done on my phone. That doesn't mean that I should be doing that all day. Yeah.
So you had mentioned while we were on the break about the necessity of knowing where specifically your meat comes from, but knowing where your food comes from. And that's something that I've been a huge advocate for, is just having more small farms locally and being able to, like you said, I guess, honor where your food is and honor that animal. Why is that important, and why is that important to you?
It's important to me because I take in nutrition. I want that nutrition to be the best for my body, and I want for my body to take not only vitamins, minerals, amino acids out of it, but it also needs to have a bit of a positive karma effect on me. So let's say I'm raising a barn full of pigs. And I know that my 200 pigs will go on a truck on Tuesday, and they will go to Quebec, and they will get butchered there. So first of all, I'm scaring the crap out of them by just pushing them onto this truck. So their whole body radiates with fear now. Then they smell on this truck that other pigs have been there. So they're like, oh my gosh, that's weird. More fear. Then they get to this facility, and they smell in the air that other pigs have been killed there. That is even more fear to them. And then they hear the pigs scream that they're going to be killed next. So all this fear affects the tissues. It affects every fiber of it. And then this ends up in your supermarket, and you decide to eat that. And like, that is not great karma on your food, man. Like, you don't
Can that be measured? Is that, like, are those hormones that are getting released and that are tainting the meat, if you will?
Yeah, I think it could be measured if somebody really wanted to. I do believe it, and even maybe with some kind of infrared camera or heat camera or whatever, you could maybe really measure some significant stuff. Would be a really interesting study. I prefer food from a local farm where I know that they fed it great food, they treated it well, and then it gets butchered in a, well, can you say humane way? Yeah, I think you can, because there's horrible ways of killing a pig, and there's more. And I know a lot of my local farmers that will only kill this many, let's call it pigs, because they know that's what their market is like, and their kids have named all the pigs, you know. That is important to me, that I get a food source that will nourish my body. And yeah, I've been in mass hog growing facilities in Holland growing up. It was actually a school trip for us, and it's funny to me that was a school trip to go into these barns with mums that can't move, and with like 16 piglets like sucking on her, and she's laying on her side and she can't move. And I thought that was a horrible experience. Who does that? That's not humane. That's not what we're supposed to do with another living being. And I'm really not like some kind of person that doesn't believe in butchering anything for my nourishment, but I do think that do to your neighbor as to yourself is also for animals.
Do you feel that modern animal agriculture has really driven the modern vegan or vegetarian movement?
Yeah, I do think it, yeah. I do believe that many people that tell me that they're vegan, like that's the story I hear. Absolutely.
I saw a documentary one time, and that I'm scared. I'm never eating KFC or eating chicken again.
Forks over knives. Documentaries like that, yeah, absolutely. If documentaries like that do not move you in any way, shape, or form, then there's something wrong with your empathy level. Yeah.
Is it easy then to still get all of the nutrients that you need from a diet like that, from a vegan diet?
It is not, and it's also not something that works for a person long term. And I understand the thought behind it, and I appreciate it very much, but we need more nourishment than what you can get. So many vegans, around 8 months on a vegan diet, that's often where we see the deficiencies show up. So, then it becomes a conversation. What are we going to do here? What are your goals? What are you comfortable with? Baby steps. Like, we're not going to say, so tomorrow you swing your whole diet around, but what do you think about eating eggs? Could that be something we can add? You start very slowly. You appreciate where somebody's belief system is. Yeah, but I see too many people coming in who've been on a vegan diet for a long time and that really start to struggle with health issues. Deficiencies, basically.
Is it something that most people are deficient in a number of nutrients and minerals?
Oh my gosh, yes. So many.
Not just vegans, but like everybody, especially
Absolutely.
given our modern diet, everything's grown so fast and turnover is high. So what minerals are we really missing?
I would love for everybody to take a high quality multi-mineral every day. It's your magnesium, your molybdenum. It's like a whole list of minerals that everybody's kind of deficient in. If you are deficient in minerals for a longer period of time, that's where disease starts. Like your cancer, your autoimmune, all these conditions, they started at a deficiency in minerals in your body. So if you come in and you have a very high stress lifestyle, then you are most likely deficient in magnesium because stress steals from magnesium. So we can supplement that. However, we also need to have a conversation about your lifestyle and your stress levels and what can we do to maybe change that, or how can we help you accommodate your body in different ways. Maybe you should go exercise. Maybe you need to do meditation. Maybe you need to get yourself a hot tub so you can like chill, and then a non-chemical hot tub. So like we need to have the conversation not just about, oh, you're deficient in this mineral, but I also need to figure out what else are you doing in your life that's causing this. And we are under a tremendous amount of stress, like our generation. It's just how life is created at the moment. Many also wear it as a badge, and it's so great that you can do all the things. We need to get away from that because that's not a compliment. That is like, you're silly.
You need to learn how to relax and actually be a part of. I miss the community aspect of when we were kids, being able to spend more time together, whereas now it seems like we not only have no time, but have no desire to do that with our neighbors anymore.
Yeah, it's sad, isn't it? Yeah. Yesterday we were at the clinic and we saw kids outside on bicycles, and they were loud and they were on the sidewalk and they were, I don't want to say disruptive, and Kim and I started laughing because we was like, oh my gosh, kids on bicycles, that's fantastic, let them play. And some lady came in and had to say something negative about it, and we were both like, we're excited to see kids outside. Kids need to be outside, they need to explore, they need to be on their bikes on the trails, and people need to see kids. Like, come on, like, get them away from these TVs and computers and all the nonsense. Send them outside. Yeah.
That's always been a weird thing for me, where we've, in corporate life or just in our modern life, have tried to shelter away from to show that we don't have a family. That like, oh no, they're not a part of my life. This is my professional life, and the kids don't interrupt that. And then you go home to your kids. Whereas that, like, there's no work-life balance, I guess, in that point, where kids aren't shown. Kids aren't talked about.
Yeah.
And it's sad that we've really disconnected the family unit from life in general, where your job or your work is a big part of your life.
Yeah, for us it's always been different because I've been self-employed for 25 years, and whatever my profession was, whatever my business was, our kids have always been in it. They've worked in it. They would go on road trips for it. So people have always seen our kids, but our kids have learned amazing skills by running cash registers, dealing with people, understanding we need to do this now because this pays the bills, and actually if you guys all help out, then we can actually maybe go on to this vacation with Christmas. I think our kids were raised a little bit different. Doesn't mean that we done it totally right. I'm sure that business has had, we're both workaholics because we love what we do. And so I'm sure if we would have toned it down a bit and changed things a little bit, then yeah, that could have been more helpful to our kids at the end, but who does it totally right? But yeah, no, our kids are, I think they're mini entrepreneurs because they understand that so well. We've always like taught them, we've always spoken about things at the dinner table, like, oh, this is why you make these choices in business. And yeah, I do believe that has helped our kids to who they are today. Yeah.
Last question, and we'll see how far it goes. You had mentioned with the biofeedback machine, it works on vibrations, and vibrations have been something that I've been extremely curious about of late, because it feels like vibrations are all around us. They are of everything. What is your understanding or sense of vibrations and how important they are with regards to how healthy we stay?
Well, we are energy beings. So if we add frequencies to our bodies, our innate intelligence system understands that. And so you can do bad things with frequencies, but you can also do really, really good things with frequencies. You can like support your body. So my system, I can identify what's out of balance, but I can also send frequencies in to make the body understand that there's an issue there, like my immune system hasn't picked up on it yet. So, hello immune system, you need to do something there because that's not what's in balance. Like I scan myself every morning and I balance my body every morning, and I find that that's important to stay on top of things. If something,
what is that process?
It's it's a quantum biofeedback system, and mine, it has a type of intelligence that it also knows my body really well, and of course I know really well how it scans my body. So it's about a 3-minute scan, and it identifies all the physiological systems in my body, mental, emotionally. It has the frequency of vitamins and minerals in it, so it can also say, hey, you're actually really low on magnesium. Do you feel it? Like, do you want to supplement something? Do you want to stream it in frequency? What do you want to do today? So
that's something that's so foreign to me.
I know.
Because that's even another step. Like to talk about natural healing and talk about holistic health is one thing, but then to take a step towards that, towards vibrations and different things that I just don't understand is such a foreign concept away from allopathic medicine.
Yeah. So when I started with this system is when I was finally diagnosed with Lyme disease. I came home. Elcho went on a business trip to Holland. One of the salespeople there was like, hey, I have not really been doing what I was supposed to be doing because I've just not been well. And I went to this lady that has a quantum biofeedback system. She diagnosed me with Lyme disease. And he was like, wait a minute, what? So he's like, I would love to meet this lady. And the guy was like, oh, she books really far ahead. She never has time. Took the phone number anyway, called her. She listened to his story and she's like, you know what, I'm supposed to study this afternoon, but come on over and I'll show you what I do. So that's where he was kind of faced with this biofeedback system, and she explained how that could potentially really, really help me. So he comes back home, flies back to Canada, and we have a discussion about it. And he's like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to buy this. So we buy this system. I have no idea what we're doing. In the beginning, so it's not just that the system does all the work. The operator needs to have a good insight on things. You can create in your body a reaction called a Herxheimer reaction. It's basically you are over flooding your body with toxins, and that can give you like flu-like symptoms. Oh my goodness, I was out of bed for a few days doing great, hooked myself up to this system and kind of go to Disney on it because I don't know what I'm doing. And a few hours later, I'm like, oh, I'm getting a headache, my neck gets really sore, I don't know. End up back in bed for 3 days because I have just fried my system, overloaded myself with toxins, don't know what I'm doing. However, after the 3 days, I came out of it and I was like, oh, I actually have more energy now.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a real journey to get from that point to really say, okay, so now I need this system. I need to understand who teaches on that. So I ended up in Budapest, I ended up in San Diego for all the teachings on these systems. Elcho had to come because my brain was still not totally where it should be. So he was like my teacher's aide in class. So he was also following it all, that when we would come home and if I would get stuck, then he would be like, oh, this is what we're doing here. And so for the first year, we traveled a lot for my learning, but he had to come all the time. It was kind of, so people all got to know him because you were in classes with the same people constantly. And yeah, it was actually a great journey. We learned a lot, we met amazing people, and we learned how to understand this system. And since then, I've been absolutely independent and I've been working with it for so many years now that I absolutely understand my system. Will I ever be able to completely understand it and use it to its max? No, because it's so amazing and it's never wrong. It can be wrong because I don't read all the signs properly. You need to have a good understanding of anatomy and physiology to really put all the puzzle pieces together and to be like, okay, this is what it is then. That the system is never wrong. Sometimes it tells me something and I'm like, I don't know. Sometimes I even have to look up what it means. What is that? And then I can't really place it. And then a few weeks later, person comes in again and we look at things and they share something. And I'm like, oh, that's what it was. Yeah, so my work is never the same. It's never boring. I learn every day. I'm always studying and I absolutely love it. It's amazing.
A lot of people, when they hear the term toxins, I think they try to discount what it means because they don't understand what are toxins and what would be released by the biofeedback machine.
Yeah, so toxins are things that we get in through food, air, products we put on our skin, anything that's not natural. We get it into our body. Our liver filters through all this stuff and our liver's going to say, gee, I don't know what this is. I don't know where to go with it. I can hold it in the liver for a little bit. It's a toxin, so let's hold it here for a little bit. If you really start overloading that, your liver gets kind of inflamed. You can get non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. You start gaining weight because you get more and more toxins. The body's like, this is foreign to me, but I think I should hold on to it. So then it puts it into fat cells, so you start gaining weight and you're like, why am I getting so pudgy? And so
they're inorganic chemicals that your body doesn't recognize or doesn't have a use for.
Yeah, okay. Absolutely. And then if you start on this journey, so the biofeedback system sends in a frequency that says, I recognize all these chemicals, you need to release that. If you don't do that properly, so if you're not pooping every day, you do not want to do that because it releases these toxins. They come into your bloodstream and your urine and stool is supposed to filter it out and make it exit. However, if you're constipated, then your colon wall is going to absorb it again from the stool and it's going to do another cycle inside your body and you're going to feel awful. And that's what I was doing in the beginning because I just didn't know enough. And yeah, I learned all the right ways because I did it wrong on myself, which is good way to learn. You never make that mistake again.
Detoxing is something that I think in the West now we don't really talk about as much. I mean, it's more and more becoming popular sort of in different niches, but for a lot of people, I think that people are scared of the term detox.
Right.
And so even things like saunas or hot tubs, like you mentioned, are so beneficial to be able to get you to sweat, because I think so many people, like we mentioned, have sedentary lifestyles where we don't do anything. So if you don't sweat and you don't exercise at all, you're not getting rid of those toxins on your skin, in your skin, in your body.
I'll add a level to that for you. So when they finally figured out what was wrong with me, one of the things was genetic, and it was an MTHFR gene mutation what they discovered. So it meant that my body doesn't methylate things well. That also means that if I get toxins in my body was really not good at taking the toxins out. So it kept on accumulating in my body. I had all these migraines, and it was actually because of all that. So,
can you talk about what methylation is just a little bit?
Yeah, methylation is how your body synthesizes something that comes into your body to something that's useful to the body. So let's say folic acid, if you take that, which I don't recommend anybody takes, not even if you're pregnant, take folic acid. The next step is methylfolate. Your body should synthesize it to methylfolate. I would prefer if everybody takes methylated vitamins right away, takes methylfolate right away, because it skips a step for your body and it's just better for you. And that's when your body absorbs these nutrients a lot better. And methylated products, the organizations that make these products already understand that you don't put fillers in it and sugars and coloring and whatever. It's just a much better product for you. So if you take all the wrong products, it's like the rest stuff, it doesn't automatically go to your stool as garbage. The body needs to be nudged in a way to take it out. So we start with gentle liver cleansing. We start detoxing from the top down basically, but we need to make sure that the pathways of elimination are open. So are you sweating? Are you pooping? Are you peeing? Is that all working? Then we can gently take, for some people, 60 years of garbage out. We don't want to do that too fast, because then all these toxins will like
toxic shock.
Yeah, will explode in your body. Yeah, and we need to do baby steps for many people. Yeah, look what we're breathing in outside nowadays. That's all gets added. You can live the healthiest you want. You can eat the most organic food, but we have to question now what we get exposed through the air, like what's actually dumped on it. Although we believe we do the best thing for our body.
Yeah, and a lot of our products are so far from natural now that we don't even know what the real thing is anymore.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. So we have like a mini homestead, and we try to do the best we can. My husband is a soil scientist, agronomist, so he knows what he's doing. And so it's my job to can and preserve and absolutely love it. And together we try to make the most wholesome meals for our bodies and our environment. Even our dogs pretty much eat holistic now. And it matters. And if you want to get into old age with a good quality of life, I really need for you to start before you're 40 to take care of yourself and what enters your temple. It matters in the long run. Do you get sick within a few years? Most likely not. But long term, yeah, you need to preserve that. You are not supposed to be cranky and tired when you get older. That's toxic overload. Like, you are supposed to be still like active, and you're not supposed to be hurting all over, and you're not supposed to be sitting in this lazy boy. You're supposed to feel great. Yeah, maybe things slow down a bit because of age. That's okay. But your brain should work. You should be able to go out there and like do your gardening, do your volunteer work, enjoy life. So many people are so overloaded with toxins. They believe it's oh, that's just aging, that I can't move anymore, I can't bend over anymore, that I need to go to bed at 8, that I can't sleep at all. No, that's your toxic overload. We need to do something about that.
Look at how many cultures live so much longer than we do, but they have so much more physical activity. They work in the fields until their 80s or 90s, and it's amazing to me that we basically write off grown adults when they turn 60 or 70. They're just like, oh, I'm old, I'm done, just on the downhill decline. Like, sure, you may die, but you've still got plenty of life left. We should be living into our 80s and 90s, especially with modern medicine.
Yeah, like look at the Mediterranean diet. Like, that's a great thing. The Mediterranean diet is beautiful. However, you don't live in Greece, and you don't walk up this hill to the Catholic Church every morning to do your prayer. You don't walk back home and go again at 2 p.m. and walk back home and go again this night at 7 to do your prayers. You don't do any of that. So just the diet alone is not enough. You need to also look after your, well, going to church to do prayers is also a mental health exercise. And going there, walking there is your physical exercise. For your lymphatic system, you need to be walking. Lymph doesn't have a pump. If you don't move, your lymph goes from being the consistency of maple syrup to being the consistency of molasses right in your system if you don't move. That stuff's full of toxins. You need to be moving. You cannot just eat the Mediterranean diet. You need to do all the steps.
Awesome. Annette, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
I appreciate you for coming. Dr. Annette, even though we're not allowed to. But thank you. I think there's so much that, we could talk forever about different things, but I think there's so much that people don't know about their own bodies, and it's nice to be able to educate and talk about what some things that people may have misconceptions about.
Yeah, I could talk forever, yeah. And this is what I do every day, right? Because it's more education. You're more educating people than actually doing anything. Well, and to me that's normal, but to them it's earth-shattering. Like, I need to put it all on paper for them because it's such an overload of information they've never heard about. And it's beautiful to see them come in a month later and see how things have shifted and how happy they are. We actually, in the past 2 weeks, we had 2 cancer patients. One is completely cancer-free, did not get to the point of chemo because they were way behind, so never got to that level. They decided to do the scans again because it had been a little while, couldn't find the cancer. He had cancer in 3 spots. And we have an amazing homeopathic remedy for cancer patients. And we do a few other things. We definitely look at what do you ingest and how do you settle your emotions and traumas. And we had one person who is doing chemo, and they said it was a palliative chemo. I had never heard of it. Basically life lengthening, but we don't really monitor your quality of life. She came in to see like what can we do to support, and so she'd been with us for 2 months, and her tumor shrunk half, and they said they wouldn't shrink, so they shrunk half in 2 months.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's beautiful, right? And that's not us doing it, that's these people healing themselves, and it's wonderful to see, and it's just the most, yeah. And we can all do this because our bodies can heal. We just need to do the right things. We need to get out of the way, we need to nurture them, and then we can all heal.
Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this episode, leave a like and a comment to let me know what you thought and possibly some future guests that we can have on the show.